Hello, everyone, and welcome. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Welcome to the Mastering Your Life, Aligning with the Laws of Nature. My name is Cynthia Ruiz, and my Cherokee name is Lion Mother. I am a Native Indigenous Latina, five-time author, professor, transformational leader. And to start out, I want to acknowledge the first people of this land. I live in Los Angeles, so the first people of the land are the Tongva Gabrielino, and Wade is in Ventura County, so for him, it's the Chumash. We honor their ancestors. Today, I am joined by my good friend, Wade Chumney, the AI ethics dude.
Hey, nice to see you guys. I am also a philosopher, author, professor, and transformational leader. And what transformation means, at this time period we find ourselves in, is that there's a transformation going on in both our inner worlds and our outer worlds. And what we're going to talk about today are the wisdom traditions to help us on the inner world and the external world. It's the AI that's, I think, going to have such a significant impact. So both of those are things to pay attention to going forward, which is why I got that name. Thank you.
Now, on the surface, Wade and I come from very different places. And we met almost a year ago. And what we found that we had in common is a passion for empowering people. And once we started talking about what that looks like, we found that we shared many beliefs. Wade from a philosophical point of view, and myself from an indigenous point of view. But we both agree that a lot of these concepts that we and beliefs that we have are really rooted in ancient wisdom that has really been around forever, wisdom that we call the laws of nature. Now, I know that nature is absolute and nature runs in cycles. There's certainty in nature. I know that every morning the sun is going to come up and every evening the moon will appear. Now, today in this 30-minute webinar, we don't have time to cover all of the laws. So today we're going to focus on 6. Our intention for today is share this information so you can create the life that you want. We're going to try to save some time at the end for Q&A. So let's just jump in. Take it away, Wade.
All right, thanks for that wonderful setup. So our premise is that there are these 12 universal laws. They're ageless, time has no meaning to them, they apply everywhere, and that you and I can discover those. And how do we discover them? It's by aligning with them, hence the title of our talk here. And so how do you go about that alignment process? It's because you must embody them, okay? And to do that, I just want to set up, there's 3 components in yourself to pay attention to. There's your body, your mind, and your heart. Your body produces your actions that you take out here in the physical world. Your mind creates the thoughts that come out of it. And your heart has the feelings, which, is how you experience life. So those are the components you have to work with, the things you can control. You can't control anything else out there. Those are 3 things you're going to work with to try to align with these universal laws. So I hope that makes sense going forward. And the first one that we'll talk about is the law of unity, also known as divine oneness. And let me just say at the outset, stop and look, here's me, here's Cynthia. If you can't realize that there's unity in the world, giving our different backgrounds and where we come from, and the fact that we are saying the exact same thing, then I would encourage you to just look a little harder, try a little harder at it, because it's obvious. And, this divine or whatever, this concept of everything being united, what is it that connects everything? Why is everything interconnected? How is that? Well, going back to Platonic philosophy, he called it nous. He called it divine intelligence, the mind. And realizing that, if that means the universe is mental. So obviously what we do with this mind we have is of utmost importance. And we live in an interconnected web of life. So if you want to understand this from a scientific standpoint, I was taught that this entire universe we find ourselves in started with the Big Bang. That's where it came from. So everything you're looking at, me and you, originated from that point. There's a point of unity. And if you and I are one and interconnected, you would realize, why would I treat you poorly? Why would I not treat you the same? We are exactly the same in our essence. That's the key realization. Because of that, the right hand doesn't get mad at the left hand for what it does. It's just part of the same being. Same things with you and I. So those are important things to keep in mind. Another aspect of it that's really important is the fact that it is a way of how you think about the world. Unity is synthetic in its nature. Most people think in analytic terms, breaking up component parts. You want to come from a synthetic view to see the wholeness of things because they are connected. And a transformative idea that comes out of this, I'd like to say, is that your thoughts, we're talking about thoughts now, how powerful they are. They have the ability to control your actions on the physical level, your feelings on the mental level, and your beliefs. I'm sorry, your feelings on the heart level and your beliefs on the mental level. Hence the power of thought. So if you change your thoughts, you can change your life. It really is that powerful. You just need to work at it. Next, I'd like to talk about a practical application real fast. If you want to think of why practice matters, I always use a quote from Yogi Berra, the Baseball Hall of Famer. And he says, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. What does that mean? You can talk all day about theories, but they're meaningless unless you actually put them into practice. So that's a key point and one thing that Cynthia and I really focus on in our teachings. So the last thing I'll do is tell you a practical aspect, and that would be this. If you want to see more of this unity and experience it, set your intention to realize unity in nature. Set that intention in the morning. Two most important aspects of yourself are your intention and your attention. I call those your most valuable assets. So where you set your intention is where you're going to end up in life. Where you focus your attention is going to determine what data gets into your mind to create the beliefs, to create the feelings, to create the thoughts that lead to the actions you take. Very important to pay attention to those things, and that's one way to do it. Would you have any thoughts you'd like to share about this, Cynthia?
Well, yes, absolutely. So the law of divine oneness is really at the core of my Native American Cherokee beliefs because we are taught that we're connected to everything that's ever been or and and everything that ever will be. So we as Cherokees have this very holistic view of the world that we are all connected. So that is in perfect alignment with the law of divine oneness. So let's move on to the law of vibration. Now, the law of vibration is the fundamental principle that we are all energy and everything is in constant motion. This says that everything in the universe is vibrating at its own frequency. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions all have their own vibrational frequencies. And those frequencies actually impact our experiences. When people ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm blessed and I'm grateful. And I truly mean that. And so when I say I'm blessed and grateful, it really is a vibration. So, that vibration of gratitude actually opens me up for all the blessings that I receive. So with me, the law of vibration, it's very important to keep my vibration at a high level of frequency, which is a lighter frequency. Wade, what do you think about the law of vibration?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. That things vibrate at different levels. Dense matter is vibrating more slowly. Our thoughts vibrate at a higher rate, and there's things that vibrate higher than that. And coupled it with the first law, again, these things are all synergetic. They all work together. The realizations is you control your thoughts, which controls many other things. So you want to vibrate at the high level, as Cynthia attested, blessed and grateful. Every time I've ever asked her that question, that's what she's answered. I love that. And it's a very powerful thing to say because it creates the life experience.
And so, in terms of practical, how can you incorporate the law of vibration into your life? Well, of course, having a gratitude list because it uplifts your vibration. But what works for me is sound, music, and dance. So, sound, because it has a higher vibration, I participate in sound baths I went up to Mount Shasta and had the most amazing experience. And that sound bath really helped me raise the vibration. Or like with music and dance, I think we've all experienced a point in our life where maybe you're having a bad day or not feeling well, and then a certain song that you really love comes on, and you listen to that song and it makes you happy because it changes your vibration. So for me, and then I love to dance. So that dancing, that movement, so you can really increase or change your vibrational level by sound, music, and dance. What works for you, Wade?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. And I mean, I try to set an intention of positivity. You mentioned that gratitude journal. I encourage my students, anyone who wants to learn, if you wake up in the morning and start your day with some positive gratitude for three things that you're grateful for, truly, and then start your day like that, keep that practice, turn it into a habit, your life transforms because you see things differently. You're no longer vibrating at that lower level, seeing the negative. You vibrate at the higher level and see the positive.
So Wade, talk about the law of correspondence. What does that mean?
Yeah, so law of correspondence, things are related to each other. Platonic philosophy, it traces a little deeper than that back to Hermetic wisdom, which says, as above, so below. And the second part is, as within, so without. We've already talked about your inner and outer world, right? So you've got an inner world that corresponds to your outer world. In fact, what you do in here creates what you experience out here. A very important thing to pay attention to. And part of this law is the fact that the universe works in terms of patterns. It works in terms of systems. Systems thinkings are absolutely vital. There's an atom is a system, a cell's a system, our circulatory system is part of us. I'm a system, you're a system. We're all systems. The government's a system, corporation is a system. Go on and on. It doesn't stop. That's the easiest way to understand the true nature of reality, how things work, is to realizing they're all systems. And they do have component parts that are part of it. But beyond the physical component parts, there's the invisible, the intelligible rules, the intelligible laws that we're talking about, which govern how these things operate. That's what you want to focus on, the ideal. You want to head in that direction, not toward the mundane, not toward the norms. You need to go beyond it. So that's the law of correspondence. I try to give you a physical example of this. I think the placebo effect is a very powerful one. As guys know, if people take a sugar pill compared to the real medicine, a certain percentage have the same effects as the real medicine. How on earth is that possible? Clearly, what you do in your mind has an effect on your physical body. So that's just, again, a scientific physical example that should help bring it to bear. A couple of ways of thinking about this law. One is what you believe, you perceive. Your inner world, your beliefs create what you perceive out here in the outer world. Your thoughts become things. Those are two popular phrases, exact same meaning. What happens on the inside, gets created on the outside. And when I say thoughts become things, you should reflect on that. Anything that's in existence began as a thought. The structure I'm in right now, a car, a cup you're drinking out of, someone thought about that and put it into the creative mode. So it all traces back. And the key thing about wisdom is to realize, well, what's the source of things? What do I control? And then how do I effectuate change in my life? A transformative idea I'd like to mention here about the law of correspondence is this, that you have to live it, you have to embody it, which means you have to practice it. Well, how do you do that? You have to feel it in your heart, you have to believe it in your mind, and you have to desire it with your body. If those things all in alignment, you're in alignment with laws, then you will practice this aspect of correspondence. And going back to the practical nature, which is that Yogi Berra quote, I would encourage, which I know Cynthia is well versed in, nature observation. Immerse yourself in nature. Studies demonstrate, scientific studies, that if you have a lot of plants around your house, your living area, you have greater well-being. That's not, by coincidence. You go out into nature and you get to vibrate, with that aspect of the world. And when you do, you can notice the fractal patterns that repeat, the systems that are in nature that grow greater as you expand out. But it's a system. A forest, if you go find yourself in, it's a system. It's got trees, it's got the grass, it's got the living beings within it. All of that functions to make it, one whole entity. And beyond the visible are the invisible laws that govern it. So that's a great way, I think, to practically see the law of correspondence in action. How about you, Cynthia? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, because when I talked about before the absoluteness of nature, and we know that nature runs in cycles. We know that there's seasons. I for certainty know that, winter will be followed by spring. So just having that correspondence and understanding those patterns and cycles, I think is very important. But I do want to move on because we have a lot of stuff to cover to the law of inspired action. So a few years ago, the law of attraction was very popular. A lot of the personal development self-help gurus were talking about that. And the law of attraction is very important. But what was not talked about at the time is that law should be coupled with the law of inspired action, meaning that you just can't sit there in your couch and say, I want a Rolls Royce to appear, and it magically appears. You still have to do the work. You have to, law of attraction, attracting things, you still have to do the work. And I like to tell people that anything is possible. Anything is possible. You have to believe it's possible. You have to do the work and never give up. So doing the work is very, very important. But coupled with this is also the inspiration. We all receive inspiration, creative inspiration, inspiration from internal, external sources. So really it's about paying attention to the messages we receive and the inspiration we receive that can really combine that with the action. To me, that's the basics of the law of inspired action. What do you think, Wade?
Yes, absolutely. As we've talked about earlier, it's about practice. It's about putting it into effect. If you don't take action, you can think about things all day in your mind, but nothing's going to transpire because we are within this physical domain. So if you want to interact with it, you can interact with your thoughts, you can interact with your feelings, you can interact with the actions that you take as well. And that's the only way that you're going to transform things is by acting. Even if you have some great ideas up here that you share with people, you need to put it in a book or you need to speak it out. You need to do something to put it out here in the physical world.
So that leads us to the law of cause and effect. What do you see as a law of cause and effect?
Yes, the law of cause and effect, a very important rule as well. The most common term you'll hear this phrased as is karma. And I think we all know about that. I'll tell you a little story. I read to my son when I put it into bed as often as I can. And when he was younger, I'd always read this book, On My Way to a Happy Life by Deepak Chopra, over and over, just to try to put some good thoughts in his head. And one of the phrases that stuck with him, he'll always be able to repeat, is what you do comes back to you. That's the law of karma. That's the simplest way to put it. That's the law of cause and effect. Funny thing about those stories nowadays, he's a little older. I don't read that book to him anymore. Well, that's not true. I read to him occasionally that to recall. But now I go on AI and I ask it to create a growth mindset story that teaches wisdom principles. And it's mind boggling how good that is. And then create a picture out of it as well with me and other family members. So times have changed. But anyway, back to the law of cause and effect here. You realize with it, the reverse of that, every effect that you see out there has a cause. It comes from somewhere. And this this law operates on the physical, mental, and emotional levels, all three. And if you want a physical science example of this, think of Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So there you see it stated scientifically. And in terms of an ethical practice, you can think of the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Act toward them the way you'd want them to act to you. That's the simplest capsulation of ethics I could put out there to kind of a rule for people to follow. And just to talk a little bit about that, to do that action, you have to actually try to embody what that person feels like. So it takes feeling, standing in their shoes, really feeling what it was like to be them, not thinking as you do, but trying to feel as they do. And a key to this rule that I think is of vital import is that you want to not be reactive, you want to be causal. You want to be the cause, not the effect. Because too many people are pushed around by what goes on in life. You be the causal agent of your own life. You create the things that happen to you. That's a really powerful realization. And the transformative idea I'll mention here is that actions can transform both your inner and your outer worlds. The actions you take will transform your mind, your body, your heart, and on the outside, it'll It'll transform the material world in some way. It'll transform the energetic world in some way and what thoughts you put out there. And it'll transform nature, your feeling nature from your heart as well. So I've got two practical applications here because I think they're very important. The first comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. His first habit is to be proactive. And I try to teach that to my students as much as I can. What does that mean? That means whatever happens to you, whatever stimulus occurs, you have a choice in how you react to it. That's the causal aspect. Far too many people think, oh, just reacting. That person was bad to me, I'll be bad to them. No, you get to stop, reflect, and make a mindful choice. Very powerful realization, that one. The second one I'll go back to is someone that preceded Plato, which is Pythagoras. And he had a practice that I try to tell people I think is very useful as well. And that's like the self-reflective daily review. We talked about the gratitude journal in the morning. I like to bookend that to people with a practice at evening, right before you fall asleep. Think of what you did when you woke up until that point in time you are now. Reflect on your actions. Think of the causal effect your actions had, and then try to think of how could I be more ideal? How could I learn from these experiences so that in the future I have better life experiences? That's a great way to go about it. Cynthia, any thoughts you'd like to share?
So two things come to mind with this particular law. First of all, my indigenous beliefs, we're taught when we're making decisions that we should consider 7 generations behind us, which is really all the knowledge from the ancestors, and consider 7 generations in the future, cause and effect. What we do today is going to have an impact on future generations. So that awareness is very important and very powerful. The other thing I think of is we all know that we live in a world of free will. Everybody has free will. Everybody can make choices. But with choices come responsibility. The choices you make today have impacts or effects. And so it's really having that connection, because a lot of times people will take action and they don't really think it through. They're not strategic and they don't realize that there's going to be a impact or effect of their action. So I think it's just putting those two together is so important and so powerful. So the last law that we want to cover is actually one of my personal favorite, the law of non-interference. The law of non-interference. We are each and every one of us here to have our individual journey. Doesn't make my journey better than yours, doesn't make yours better than mine. We each have a journey to go through in life. The law of non-interference is to respect other people's journey and not trying to control their journey. We only have control over ourselves. But many, many times I see people that like control and try to control other people. And I know, us both being parents, sometimes it's difficult, especially as your kids grow up and they become adults or are at the age where they're making their own decisions. Sometimes it's hard to let them make their own decision when they make mistakes and not try to jump in and try to control it. So the law of non-interference, we have control over our own individual actions and should not try to control everybody else, because the law of non-interference teaches us everybody has their own journey. What are your thoughts on this law?
Just a couple. One, when you mentioned that parenting stuff, I don't know what you're talking about. I never can. Come on, they did everything they wanted to do. And then the second thing is, I'm reminded of the 3 principles that I've learned per Eckhart Tolle are the keys to life, which are non-attachment, non-judgment, non-resistance. You could talk for days about each, but just taking non-judgment, which is what this comes to, the realization is, if you were this person that you're judging, if you had the same life experiences they had, if you had their same mind, chemicals, all that stuff in your body, you would make the exact same decision. That's the truth of the matter. So how can you judge someone making that decision? It's not your choice or your place to do that. So I just like to throw that out there. Thank you.
So let's recap really quickly. So what we've talked about today is the law of divine oneness, the law of vibration, the law of correspondence, the law of inspired action, the law of cause and effect, and the law of non-interference. What we know, there's much, much more to share, and we wish we had more time because we've just scratched the surface. So, Wade, tell us how they can learn more.
Well, I mean, we're really excited. Hopefully, you can see the excitement we have in sharing this wisdom that has come through us to you. And what we're doing is we're going to start some master classes in September about these 12 laws of nature. We're going to go in depth, give practical advice, tips on how to actually implement it in your daily experience, so that with the goal being to live a happy, joyful, flourishing life. That's what Plato tried to teach in his teachings. That's what your wisdom tradition teaches as well. And they're both saying the same thing. So it's going to be on the Udemy platform, and we're really excited about it. And if you have found some value in what we've said in this webinar, we'd be honored if you would share it with others. It's going to be recorded, and you can do that. Also, if any of you would have any questions or comments right now, we'd love to hear those. And we'll wait to see if you do, but if not, it will be until we meet again. Thank you for your time.
And so, Wade, before we go, I dropped the link to my most recent book. My most recent book is Finding Sane Relationships in a Crazy World, which is a second edition. If you want to share your link to your book, as mentioned, I have a total of 5 books. Wade has a very insightful book around business ethics, and he truly is an AI expert. And one of the things that him and I talk about all the time is, how is AI going to impact humanity? I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about. I also am going to drop in my website into the chat, and for that, we'll now take any questions. If anybody has any questions, we would love to answer them for you. We just have a few more minutes, but any questions, we're open to answer them. As I put my website into the chat.
Yeah, but hopefully you guys can realize these are very valuable ideas and concepts. And once there's a quote from Da Vinci, there's 3 kinds of people: those who see when shown, and those who don't see. You don't want to be the type of people that don't see. And the other caveat I'd say to that is, once you see, you can't unsee it. It's now becomes part of your inner world, and therefore transforms your outer world. And again, this is the inner technology, this wisdom to help transform your life. And we also have the outer technology of AI, which I think is probably humanity's most amazing invention ever, that's going to transform the external world as well. So 2 types of technology, inner and outer world. And our hope, our goal, is to help you transform both of those for the better.
And want to give a special shout out to my friend Mary. Hey, Mary, I know Wade has a few shout outs. Thank you, everybody. We're overwhelmed by the response that we've received. Wade, you want to give any shout outs?
Just everyone that came. Thank you so much for your time, my kids. That's really cool that you showed up. And, Michael Linfield, that's amazing that you could make it. Thank you for that. And Ernie Broughton as well. It just really appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day to listen to what we had to say.
So we do have a question. So the question that came up is, will this program be on YouTube? Well, this particular recording will be on YouTube. The actual complete course is going to be on Udemy, and we'll make sure that everybody that signed up today will share that information with you. So it is now 12:30. We're out of time. And from the bottom of our hearts, again, thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. We're grateful for your time and listening to this information. Wade and I both are very clear. We're just vehicles that get to share this information with you. It's like we said, it's been around forever. And we hope that, you can walk away a better person today and have information you can use in your life.
Yes. Thank you so much. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.
Bye.